Today we are going to make a super fun and pretty sweater weather Milky Way. It's got those neutral pinks and whites and it just gives me such sweater weather vibes. If you're new here, my name is Allison and here I post a tutorial every single week to help you become a more confident tumbler maker. Before we get started, I want to tell you that everything I use in this video is linked down below. I'm using glitter from Glitter Dip Sips and my tumblers are from Craft Haven. I'm going to show something that I haven't shown here before to actually do the Milky Way process, and I cannot wait for you to see it. One thing I wanted to mention is that I started with a spray painted base. I used vintage blush and a white spray paint to prep this tumbler, but if you want to learn how to make your own vintage blush color using the CrystaLac paints, I'm going to link my live stream in the top right corner and underneath this video so you can see exactly how I made my own with the CrystaLac paints. Let's get started. I always use Bright Tone to apply my glitter when I'm doing a Milky Way tumbler. You can use the glitter glue if you prefer, but I like to use Bright Tone and just make sure that I use a good solid coat to get it fully covered that will allow my glitter to stick and it will stay wet long enough for me to apply these glitters. I am using two different glitters from Glitter Dipped Sips. I'm going to use a white glitter and a blush glitter to go with these spray paint colors. So I'm starting with Freeze, which is the white, and I'm just going to sprinkle it over that white spray paint, but I am allowing it to fade into that blush color. It helps connect the glitters and just let them fade naturally. If you don't focus too much about it being such a straight line, you really want it to be a natural fade. So I switch out my paper because I like to save that glitter. And then I am going to sprinkle on this Blush Babe. This glitter is called Blush Babe, and I don't want to do like full coverage because I really wanted that vintage blush color to show through in between the glitter. So I just sprinkled it on and kind of just kept going until I was happy. Like I wanted to make sure it was evenly covered, but not so much that I couldn't see that vintage blush. Plus, when you sprinkle it on, it allows that glitter to lay nice and flat. You can do it however you would like, but this works well for me. Then I decided to go in and sort of fade it more with the white, and honestly, I think it looked better before I did that, but I knew it was going to be okay because I knew I was going to Milky Way it anyway. You can see me keep tapping that cup and hoping that it would come off, but sometimes less is more. So after a few minutes, there's no set amount of time, but just after a few minutes, basically however long it takes me to clean up my glitter, I will tap down my glitter. I like to use an old gift card, but you could use your finger. It just helps while the Bright Tone is still wet to tap it down to get it nice and flat. Again, I only wait just a couple of minutes before I start tapping, and then I will let this dry for 4 hours. After that 4-hour dry time, I will do a good solid dry brush. I use just a regular harder bristled brush to get off any excess glitter. And then I will use a damp brush to brush on that glitter glue. So you see I just take it right out of the water and it just allows that glitter glue to spread a little bit easier. You don't want to put a ton of pressure because you don't want your glitter to move. So making it a wet brush just helps kind of thin it out and allow it to spread. So get it all spread out nice and evenly, and then I will let this spin for 2 hours. Once that 2 hours is up, I will roll this cup in parchment paper, putting pressure down on the table and grabbing my rubber brayer just to give it a little bit of extra pressure to get that glitter nice and flat. And then because I'm using a chunky glitter, I'm going to seal it a second time. I always do it twice when I have a chunky glitter, but the same exact process. Brush on my glitter glue, let it spin for 2 hours, and flatten it in my parchment paper. After this second seal and flatten, you can go ahead and move on with your coats of Bright Tone. Remember that you want to add Bright Tone to this tumbler every 4 hours. So you can wait longer than 4 hours, but you need to wait at least 4 hours before you recoat. And with a chunky glitter, I usually do 5 or 6 coats of Bright Tone before I sand. You just want to make sure you have enough coats so you don't actually sand your glitter. So once you do 4 coats or to 6 coats, you're going to start your sanding process. I sand with 400 grit sandpaper. I clean my cup and I do more coats and sanding until I have a completely smooth surface. Before I demo how to actually do the Milky Way, I want to talk about options you have for creating that look. Remember, we're just mixing stuff with our bright tone to create that Milky Way style or marble style look. You can use a lot of different mediums to create those colors. You can use the CrystaLac pigments, you can use any of the CrystaLac paints, you can use mica powder, liquid micas, you can use Bombay inks, and even if you wanted to use a little bit of acrylic paint, that would work too. Let me show you something new that I haven't shown you before, how I created these colors for my Milky Way. So the fun thing I did with this specific Milky Way is create my own color by adding in the silver liquid mica, but I didn't want it to stay silver. I personally like to choose colors that coordinate with the current tumbler that I'm working with because I like the Milky Way portion to be just like a soft texture added to the tumbler. So what I did was stir up my liquid mica. This is the silver. Mine was a little bit dry in the container, but that's okay. I just kept stirring until it was fully mixed. And I added the base paint to this silver. So when I said at the beginning that I mixed up my own vintage blush paint, I decided to use that paint to create a brand new color. I love this soft blush silver, and you don't want to use too much paint because you don't want it to overpower the silver, so I recommend adding just a little bit at a time. One part is that you can mix all paints and stuff from the CrystaLac Company and just customize your own new things. So I got that all combined to a point where I was happy, and then I actually keep some white mica powder mixed with bright tone in this container. So I mix it as best I can, but then I always feel like it doesn't recombine that well, so I don't fully recommend doing that, but I always put it in a little container and stir it up before I start that Milky Way. I decided just to stick with these two really soft colors for this Milky Way. Let me just give you a close-up of this new one because it is absolutely gorgeous. Highly, highly, highly recommend. So what I do to actually create the Milky Way is to do a thin coat of bright tone. I don't put on too much, like a very, very thin coat because you're about to add your colors. So just get it fully covered, and I always have my cup spinning towards me when I do a Milky Way. And I take my popsicle stick and then just add my colors in a straight line. And then you can keep your colors as sharp of the line as you want, or maybe you like them softer. It really depends on the look that you like and what you are going for. So the look I like is just like a soft addition, like a soft little texture to my tumblers. So I spread out all of my colors, and then I like to use my finger to swipe it to get it kind of a straight line, and then I take the straw and blow on it to soften it up. That's just the method that I like to do, but you should play around with the different ways you can make this look because there's honestly endless possibilities. But you don't want to use any heat when you use CrystaLac, so that's why I'm using a straw. You can use canned air or an airbrush. If, using a straw is difficult for you, that is absolutely no problem. You can totally use any other method to add in your air. Now, I did feel like this pink was a little bit too light, so I went in and added a little bit more paint to it and added a little bit more to my tumbler. You don't have forever. You do have to move kind of quick. So just remember that. You can always add more, but there is a point where it kind of starts to dry and it doesn't really work anymore. But I always let this spin for a few hours, a little bit longer than normal. So let it spin for like 3 to 4 hours and dry overnight before you finish up with your coats of bright tone. I chose not to add a decal on this tumbler. I thought that the glitter just kind of spoke for itself, but you can always add a decal and add more coats of bright tone. For more tumbler tutorials, I have a great one for you up on the screen now.